Alright, this is going to be the fourth part and final installment of the America series, and I want to talk about the implications of what I discussed in the previous videos. I'm sure I'll make videos related to this subject in the future, but I think you have a good enough basic understanding of the Constitution, what its intention was, and how it functions in law. The philosophy that the country was founded on, a nation of sovereigns, not a sovereign nation. The different ways that people voluntarily contract away their freedoms through contracts, and this is the way that this is done through the Social Security Administration, and then just the nature of the beast, the corporate state, where it came from, how it functions, who owns it, that kind of stuff. So I know it's a pretty dense topic, but hopefully you can understand it, and I cannot stress enough, you should definitely check out teamlaw.net, because like I said, this is where I got a lot of the information that I have. I think there are a few analyses on this website that are flawed, but overall, I mean, yeah, the guy's a Christian, I'm a pagan, but it doesn't change the fact that he has done some invaluable work on helping the average citizen, the typical plebeian, understand constitutional law and who they are. So, the implications of this, I don't really have an order for this, but I just want to go through a few different topics which are touched on. So like I said, the sovereign citizen thing, if you look up sovereign citizen, if you look up driving without a driver's license, you can see a lot of people on YouTube trying to do this. And the thing is, a lot of them don't understand the law. So this, as I explained before, all it means is that the driver's license was not issued to you, it was issued to the trust. So if you're acting as a citizen and not as the trust, then you don't need a driver's license and registration. Now, if you have plates displayed on your car and you're driving without a driver's license and plan on acting as a citizen, say you're speeding, you're doing like 80 and a 65 and you get pulled over and he says license and registration, and you say, I don't have any such documents, and your plan is to get out of the speeding ticket by saying that you're not subject to corporate state motor vehicles policy. If you have license plates on the back of your car, you have initiated the interaction as the trust, if it's registered in your name, and it will be a more difficult legal battle. I'm not saying that you can't get out of it, but really the most lawful way to do it is to drive without plates, not have your license, and certainly if they pressure you into giving your license. There's a video of a guy who messed this one up online too. You know, he tried to do the sovereign citizen thing, and the guy scared him, and then he ended up turning his license over. So perhaps you could have an argument that that was entrapment or coercion or something, but the moment you turn over a driver's license, you're not acting as a citizen. So you just got to be careful of that. And the implication of this is that you don't have to have car insurance. So the whole DMV is set up to make money, and to make money for the insurance companies. That's all it is. Because think about what a person driving with insurance versus a person driving without insurance does. A person driving with insurance knows if they fuck something up, the insurance company is going to pay for it. If they total somebody else's car, insurance company pays for it. Maybe their rates go up a little bit, but they're not. It doesn't really matter. It's not a life or death kind of thing. Like they're going to go bankrupt if they hit an expensive car, or if they cause an accident and cause medical damages to someone else, because their insurance is going to pay for it. If you have somebody driving without insurance, they recognize the power that they have behind driving, and how one small mistake or one lapse in attention can cause a very expensive mistake or harm to someone, and they know that they're going to be the ones who is ultimately responsible for it. So without insurance, you're ultimately responsible. With insurance, you've got your little safety net. So it's just you can do a thought experiment and realize that any intelligent person who's driving without insurance is going to be much more careful about how they drive and more alert on the road and aware and stuff than someone who's driving with insurance. And the philosophical reason that I don't believe that insurance should be mandated is because you're taking a private company, which is the insurance company, and you're mandating that private citizens, well, this is the observation, it's not actually the case, you're mandating that private citizens pay another private corporation, but that mandate is coming from a government which is non-voluntary. So that's how people perceive it, but it's just not the case. So not having mandated insurance is actually a very good thing. All right. Another issue that I kind of touched on was the land rights issue. So, if the land is held in the name of the Social Security Administration trust holder, technically it's not your land and you're not sovereign on it, because it's not your domain. If you secure it through chain of title, so there's a lot of information on this. It's too dense to go into in this particular video. I might make another one about it, but you can also find it on Team Law, all about land patents. Just read their thing about land patents and you'll understand. But basically, most people have color of title to their land today. What you have to do to have complete title is to secure a chain of title through your own research, not just through a title company going back 40 years and have title insurance or something like that. All this information is available in the county records, so you'll have to do your own title work or find someone who is experienced with it. I've learned to do it but just by teaching myself, sorting through the county records and using common sense. So you can do the same thing. You got a secure chain of title going back to the land patent. I haven't gone all the way back to the land patent because I'm having issues with deciphering who the borders are back in the 60s, and I'm kind of at a stopping point right now. But getting back to the land patent was the original land grant which the federal government gave to someone, and that is the supreme document that holds up in court. So the land patent grants the land to the original holder and to its heirs and assigns forever. So if you have secure chain of title back to the land patent, there's no way the town can take it unless you've contracted with them, and as long as it's in your name and you've not contracted with them, then you're safe, which means that you're not subject to building codes and you don't pay property taxes. Now, the tax issue is really important. A lot of people, their argument against taking action against the corporate state is, so the people say it all the time, like, you just want to get stuff for free and not pay for it. Like, no, that's actually what the people who are involved in the corporate state are doing, because the corporate state is completely bankrupt. They have trillions of dollars in debt. The national debt was racked up by the corporate state, not by the actual government. So our government may be bankrupt, but they are not trillions of dollars in debt. So if the corporate state is ever dismantled, that national debt is just going to go away because the corporate state becomes bankrupt. And it is not the end-all necessarily for us, as long as our original jurisdiction government, the U.S. Treasury, has enough money to maintain our military so that we can stop any foreign invasion and we don't have to become slaves to the banks as we did, which got us into this mess. Anyhow, that was quite a digression. Taxes. You're not paying taxes to the government. You're paying taxes to the corporate state, which, again, is a treasonous, foreign-held communist organization. Criminal organization, because it has policies to commit felonies on a regular basis. You look inside any police department, they have, like what's happened to me, depriving of rights. They just have policies that enforce their corporate policies on everyone, even if they're not contracted with them, even if they're citizens. That's what their policy is. So they have policies for these officers to commit felonies. That's what it is from the top down. Do you really think that it is morally superior to be paying these mafia extortions to this treasonous foreign-held entity which has declared you an enemy of them? Or do you think it is more moral to not pay these taxes, which are actually corporate dues, and just wait for the original jurisdiction government to get its shit together, perhaps be reseated, and tax us appropriately as according to the Constitution? The fact that the state maintains the roads is irrelevant. They're public roads, and the state chooses to maintain them because it fits within their objective of raising funds and looking like they actually contribute some kind of value, which they don't. Now, I have not fleshed out the toll roads aspect of it yet. I still pay tolls because I believe using the nation's roads unrestricted would mean that tolls are unconstitutional. But I have not confirmed this, and it is possible that the roads are actually not owned by the public. They're owned by a private company. I doubt that this is the case. I have not figured it out yet. But the thing is, if they're actually not owned by the public, then how would they have been able to use eminent domain to secure the land? They would not have had eminent domain if it was not going to become public holding. So taxes, yeah, that means income tax, property tax. I mean, you can't get around sales tax unless you start going through black market, or otherwise known as private citizens bartering the fruits of their labor, not going through the corporate mafia. Some other things. I think probably the most significant implication is that all of the foreign policy, all of the immigration policy is being decided by the corporation, which doesn't answer to the citizens. They only answer to lobbyists and bankers and such. And I think most people have an inkling that this is the case, but they haven't really put it together. And a lot of leftists know that this is the case, that the money really decides things in politics, but they're just taking the completely wrong approach to solving the problem. And they don't they may be convinced in their cultural Marxist brainwashing or whatever, through government schools and corrupted universities, that communism is a good thing, that we need a social safety net, that we need a welfare program and stuff. And the fact is, none of this stuff can be mandated in our country under the Constitution. So even if they don't philosophically agree with libertarianism, that's the country that we have, and there's no changing it at this point without civil war. And I think perhaps having a more austere policy on social issues, which a libertarian would argue would be incentive for these people who are taking advantage of them to actually better their lives for themselves and crawl themselves out of the gutter instead of relying on the state and just suckling on the tits of the nanny state for the rest of their lives. Perhaps having that austere policy, which maybe you don't agree with, is better. I think you can recognize that it's better even if you're a leftist than paying taxes, paying corporate dues, and funding this war machine that is executing the foreign policy of the United States of Israel and all this stuff in the Middle East. That it's very obvious what the motivations are, and even the other conflicts that are going on it's all for money. And if you can look back on the history at your own. I'm not going to make this into a history lesson. All the way back to World War I, all this stuff was fought for money. It was all incited by the bankers to begin with, and you can find that out for yourself. I certainly would not be paying taxes, even if I was a leftist, to fund this war machine. Ultimately, recognition of this is a recognition that you still have your constitutional freedom if you have enough balls to take them. Take your rights back. To act as a citizen, to make the small risk that is necessary, the possibility of receiving unlawful fines which won't hold up in court and having to spend a day prosecuting or something, or maybe being kidnapped and handcuffed against your will and released. As long as you don't get violent or resist arrest, you're not going to get shot. So it's really not that big of a risk. And for you to say that this risk is too much and that you're just going to live comfortably and continue on the life that you're living is just a statement that you don't care enough about your children or the future generations to get off your butt and do anything.